Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Cinnamon Stitches. I am your yarn host Jennifer, and today I thought we'd do something kind of fun and different than we've ever done on the channel before. I'm working on a Halloween blanket, and I thought, because one of the main problems that I had when we were doing the big ball project with the blanket is I had a real hard time struggling with my ends. And I asked for advice, and a lot of you said, stitch markers, stitch markers, stitch markers. I'm gonna be honest, I would probably prefer making just all center out blankets. And I've been working on this one, and what did I do with the other one? I think it's in my closet. I've been making granny square blankets, but I've been making them not just straight granny stitch blankets. And I thought we would come on today and we would discuss how to create your own granny square. So there's a ton of tutorials of how to make your own granny squares. There's been a couple of different podcasters who do, I think I first saw it with Mamfa Makes. She did like the granny stitch of the month, and she did like I don't know if it was of the month, but she did like the whole book, and I think it was of the week. She did a whole book of granny squares, and they're all fancy and like all these different, and I was like, okay, cool. Well, I'm not interested in that. Jujus Stitches is also doing something similar this year. She's doing different style granny stitches, and I was like, cool. Yeah, I'm still not interested in that. I don't like putting granny squares together, first of all. That's not my enjoyable. I don't enjoy that. I don't even really like making granny squares. And I know a lot of people are like, but they're quick, they're easy. Like, they are. And then what? Because I hate piecing them together. So, what I like to do, one of my favorite thing to do is, and this is not done, is I like to make big giant granny square blankets, but I like to change them up. Because the idea of just doing granny stitch all the way around bores me to tears. And because everyone else is doing all these different types of granny squares, I was like, okay, well, let's design our own granny squares. And they don't have to be complicated, and they don't have to be fancy. We're going to just keep it simple, and I'm going to teach you how to just throw in extra stitches. How to just add a little bit of detail to your blanket. So as you can tell, starts off very basic granny square right here. And then we have like a solid row here. And then we went back to regular, and then we got some solid rows here, and then up here, this cool zigzag, that's just a V-stitch. And I did a couple rows of V-stitch here, and then we're back to a solid row. I'm going to show you how you can very easily just change whatever stitches, and in the big ball project, I actually put baubles in. I'm going to show you how you can put a little pizzazz into your granny squares, your granny square blankets, to make them not so humdrum, not so let's do the same stitch in the round forever and ever. So we're gonna go to the table, we're gonna crochet together, and I'm gonna teach you how to put some different stitches in your granny square to make it your special granny square. And you can actually create your own design and your own pattern for a granny square that you can follow or not follow, because I never do the same thing twice. So I'm going to grab some scrap. I have scrap balls of yarn down there, and I'm just going to show you how to change up the stitches on a granny square every couple of rows. We're just going to crochet it together. I thought it'd be something fun we could do today on a Thursday. Hanging in the room on a Thursday. I'm going to roll back my mat, and let's go down to the table. Alright, to start with, I have my 5.5 millimeter crochet hook. This is a Merit hook. I got this on Amazon. It's very purtiful. And let's get started. I just got some scrap colors, some scrap balls from my my scrap bin. And I'm just going to work these scraps into a very small granny square. No idea what I'm actually going to use this for, but usually while we're at it, I'm gonna grab my yarnet. In case you haven't seen this, I've shown it on the channel. It just keeps my balls where I need them to be at, and they're out of the way. Put that over there. Alright, now to start to make a granny square, we all pretty much know how to make a granny square, right? There's lots of ways you can make it. I just start off with a magic loop, chain 3, 2, and 3, and in the magic loop put 2 more double crochets. I'm just going to do, ooh, that's hair. I'm just going to do the basic beginning of a granny square, chain 2. I'm going to do a couple rows, 3 double crochet, where I'm just doing the beginning of a granny square. In case you're brand new to crochet and you happened upon my channel and you need to learn how to do a granny square, it's just like this. Chain 2, 3 double crochet, all around the magic loop, chain 2. So you want a granny, these are called granny shells or granny clusters. So you need 3, 4, we need 4 of those. So you need 3, chain 3, 2 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet, chain 2. I know this is not really beginner friendly, but I'm working under the assumption that most of you know how to do this. Chain 2, pull that magic loop tight, crochet over the tail to kind of lock it in, slip stitch to this first chain 3 section. Alright, now I like to work my granny square this direction, then this direction, then this direction, because it stops the granny square from kind of shifting to the side. Have you ever had that happen? Yeah, all you gotta do is rotate every row. So what I do is I slip stitch back into the chain 2. And if you've been making granny squares for 50 years and you don't want to change the way you do it because you do it differently than me, that is cool. I'm not trying to change nobody. I'm just showing you how I do it. Chain 3, 2 more double crochet. Chain 2, 3 double crochet. I believe this is Hobby Lobby yarn. I don't chain in between here. I don't do it. You can if you want. You can do a chain 1 there. I do not. I never have. I don't like the extra big gaping holes in between my shells. So I don't, unless the pattern calls for it, I don't put spaces. I only put the chains in the corners. So there you have it. And you can, and some people insist that you have to. I don't. I just don't. I don't like it. So the corner should be 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets. Go over to the next corner, 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet. Chain 2, 3 double crochet in the same stitch. This is not really a tutorial to show you how to make a granny shell or a granny stitch, because we all kind of, most of us know how to make a granny square. I'm sure there's tutorials to show you how to make a granny square. Funny story, I failed miserably at trying to teach my little sister how to make a granny square over the phone. And I got frustrated with her and I told her to go watch Lilo N Stitches because she was not getting it and I was not teaching her well. Alright, so we have the beginning, cute little granny square. I'm going to cut, you don't have to. Tie it off. You can make this all in one color if you want to, but I like doing it in different colors. We're going to do some blue. Alright, now because we're changing color, and like I said, you don't have to change color. You don't have to do none of this. I'm going to make a slip stitch, or a slip knot, and I like to join it in the corners. I just do. Like when I'm starting the next one, I like to join in the corners. Alright, so we're going to make the corners like normal, and we're going to change up. This is not going to be a granny stitch row, okay? But the corners are going to stay exactly the same. So 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet in the corner, and we're going to make a solid row, okay? So to make a solid row, because each granny shell is a stitch, it's actually 3 double crochets. You need the equivalent of 3 double crochets for every one of those shells. It's really that simple. You just put a double crochet in the top of each one of these stitches, all the way around. When you get to the corner, you put your normal 3 double crochet, chain 2 corner. It's 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet corner. And because I don't put a space, I don't put a chain 1 in between the shells, that's not an extra stitch. If you put a chain 1 in between your shells, you have to put a double crochet there. So wherever there's a stitch, just put a double crochet. If you do a chain 1 in between, you need a double crochet in that chain 1 space. Okay? We hit the corner, so we're going to do 3 double crochet. Oop. Chain 2, 3 double crochet. And adding these different rows of different stitches just adds a little something so that it's not your plain old boring giant granny square. All right, now when you come across the first granny stitch coming out of the corner, you need to make sure that you pull back your stitches and get this first double crochet. Otherwise you're gonna miss a stitch. You need to make sure that your double crochet or your granny shells has 3 double crochets in the stitch. In every granny shell you should have 3 double crochet. So for this, because we're only on the second round, we have a a cluster here and a cluster here, so we need 6 double crochets plus 3 in the corner plus 3 in the corner. So you should have 3, 6, 9, 12 for the second, well, this is the third row. Hit the corner, 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet. Ooh, I skipped that. Skip that stitch. I dropped it. 3 double, or a double crochet in on the next 6 double crochets. So you may hear pounding in the background. Banging, scratching. That is my child playing on the stairs. I think it was yesterday's video. He was running up and down the stairs, and when I was doing the playback on the video, I was like, oh my god, why is he so loud? I didn't hear it at the time because I was busy. And I was like, oh, that sounds terrible. Somebody's gonna comment. And then we're just finishing off by making sure we have all of our double crochets in the proper places. Make sure you count, make sure you have them. So for every granny shell that you have in the previous row, you should have 3 double crochets, and then add 3 on each corner, so a total of extra 6. Slip stitch to join. All right, now we made a solid row around the granny row. Now what if we want to go back to the granny stitch? Well, that's kind of easy. You just need to make sure that every 3 stitches, and when you go from a granny stitch and then you do a solid row, your stitch count for the next row might be off, and that is okay if you're off 1 stitch or 2 stitches. That is perfectly fine. Just fudge it. But whatever you do on this corner, you need to do on this edge and this edge and this edge. So make sure that as you go around, you're just counting. Like, oh, is that the right amount? No, maybe not. Now, if you're confused and you need to start in the corner, you can slip stitch over to the corner, which is why we start in the corner, so we're always close to the corner. And then in the corner, we're just going to put our normal chain 3, 2 double crochet to start the row. Chain 2 makes our corner, another granny cluster makes it a full complete corner. Okay. And then count over 1, 2, and in the third, put a granny cluster, which is 3 double crochet in that stitch. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Skip the next 1, 2, and in the third, put a granny cluster. It's that simple, just to bring it back to the granny stitch. Okay. skip 2 and in the 3rd put a granny cluster. Now this is where our stitch count is off. We could skip 2 and put it right here on the edge, but then we'd have too many stitches, so we're just going to skip all 3 and go to the corner because we're only off by 1 stitch, and that's okay. And we're going to go to the corner and put 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet. Now skip 2 stitches, 1, 2, and in the 3rd put a granny shell. 1, 2, 3. If you have these basic techniques that I'm showing you in this video, you're going to be able to design your own granny shell, or your own granny square. Skip 2 and in the 3rd put a granny shell. You're going to be able to design your own granny square blanket, and you can make it fancy and you can make it simple, it doesn't matter. Skip 2 and in the 3rd put a granny cluster, which is 3 double crochet together. And once again, we have too many stitches here, so we're going to skip all 3 and go into the corner and put our corner increase, which is 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet. I feel like there needs to be crochet music that's just about crochet. Maybe I should start writing crochet songs. Skip 2 and in the 3rd granny cluster. Let's do this all the way around. Skip 2 and in the 3rd put 3 double crochet in the same stitch. Your stitch count is out or off when you reach the end of the row, fudge it. Now if you have 3 stitches, that's cool, you could skip it. If you have 4, you could skip it, but if you have, I mean, you wouldn't need to skip it if you have 4, but if it's off by 1 or 2, that corner is not going to make a huge difference by you skipping a stitch. I just totally hit the camera with my finger. Did you see that? Just, when you go around, make sure you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we're going to make the 5th. You just want to make sure all of your corners, your edges, have the same number of stitches. Which, of course, if you're fudging it a little bit, it's perfectly fine. I encourage fudging. Skip 2 and in the 3rd. I just realized my nose is squeaking when I'm breathing. Stinking allergies. Skip 2 and in the 3rd, granny, granny. Skip 2 and in the 3rd, granny, and double check this last row and make sure you have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. We're good to go. We can slip stitch to join. Now I'm really going to confuse you. Okay, we'll slip back over to the corner again. Slip stitch to the corner. Now we did the granny, the solid. We're back to the granny. Let's do V stitches. Okay. Now, you can put in any stitch. Like if you have a stitch dictionary, you could put in any stitch that you want as long as it is a stitch count of 3. Now, you could essentially do a stitch count of 6 as well, but in order to do a stitch, like if it says this stitch is a multiple of 3, it will work on a granny square, no problem. You could essentially put a stitch that was a stitch count of 6 because, I mean, 3 is a multiple of 6. But in order to do that, you could only do that every other row. You understand? Because while this one has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it has 5 shells, so 5 times 3 is 15. This is not a multiple of 6 in this row, but 15 can be divided by 3. The next row, I think, see, I'll have to test that theory out. Just stick with multiples of 3. Like, let's not do extra math, okay? Stick with multiples of 3. If you have a multiple of 3, which the granny shell is, and it should stay that way mostly throughout, you can change this up for any stitch that's a multiple of 3. I'm also going to show you how to put baubles in here, because baubles are technically a multiple of 2, but if you add a chain in between them, you have a multiple of 3 and it works out. So that's what we're going to do. This row, we're going to do V stitches, okay? So chain 3 in the corner, 2 double, and see, I told you we're supposed to go back and forth, and I'm not doing that because I'm chaining to the corner. It'll be fine, it'll work out. That's just as a general rule. When I'm only doing just the granny stitch, I rotate every other row. I know, I'm confusing myself. I apologize. Alright, so we got the regular old corner. 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet. Now, you can put the granny, or the V stitches in between the granny shells, which is what we're going to do. But you could also put them in the center of the granny shells here. It will just slightly make this row a little bit bigger. So what we're going to do is we're going to make our life easier. And we're going to go in between the granny shells like we're making a granny stitch. But we're doing double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. And this is our V stitch. And we're just going to do that around. Every space you would normally put a granny shell, you're going to put a V stitch. Double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. V stitches are a multiple of 3 because while as the granny shell has 3 double crochets, that chain space counts as a 3rd stitch. So your stitch count will still be fine, it will still work out, and it's a very easy swap to just, oh, I'm going to put in some granny or some V stitches in between the granny shell, and it adds a little something. And then when you do the next row, if you do the next row as grannies, right here, so this is a V stitch, and then this is a granny, it gives this really cool zigzag effect because you're covering up the chain space with the granny shell. And I really like doing that in a granny blanket. And then when you get to the corner, just regular old 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet in the corner. Chain 2, 3 double crochet, and we're going to change color on the next row so that I can show you what I mean by the zigzag effect. It's not going to be as prominent because we have blue here and blue here. But, oh, then we're going around the corner, and once again we're back to the V stitches. Double crochet, chain 1, double crochet in the same stitch. And this is just, it's a quick, fun, easy way to keep your brain stimulated so you're not just, and some of you like to not have your brain stimulated. You crochet to zone out, and that's cool. But for me, I get bored if I zone out too much, so I need to keep it, like, I need to keep my brain active, which is why very often you will see me use lots of color. You will see me change up stitches randomly, because that keeps my brain wanting to work on the project. Alright, back to the V stitch because we did the corner. Double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. We reached the corner, we're going to put our increase. And I'm just using scraps for this, and I highly encourage using scraps for your granny squares, your granny square blankets, because it is a good use for those for your blankets, yeah. My brain is going faster than my mouth can keep up. We're back to the V-stitch. It's a really good way to use up your scraps in projects like this, especially if you have larger scraps like this giant thing. This is leftover from, I think, the granny square polo or the granny pullover tutorial we did. I think that's left over. And this is Hobby Lobby yarn, and this is part of a Premier Sweet roll that I cut apart for a tutorial. So a lot of these are just bits and pieces left over from a tutorial. Alright. Slip stitch to join. Fasten off. Alright, now we're gonna go back from, and you can do as many rows of any of these repeats as you want. If you want to just keep doing solid, you can do that. If you want to do like 8 rows of granny and then 5 rows of the V-stitch, do it. It's your blanket. I'm just showing you how you can very easily change the stitches in a granny square, so it doesn't take a whole lot of like thinking. Now once again, I'm going to start in my corner. Three double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet. Now if you wanted to get extra fancy, when you can actually mix. If you want to do, for example, if you want to do granny shell V-stitch, granny shell V-stitch, that will work too. Like, it's totally up to you. In there, take that out. Now for this row, I want to put the granny shells in the middle of the V-stitch. So in order to do that, we did the normal corner here. We got 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet. But if we're going to put an extra, we need to put an extra stitch here just so it's evened out a little bit. So we're going to count over 2, and in the third of the first, this is a corner that we just made. In that first stitch, we're just going to put a single, not a single, but a double crochet, just 1 double crochet, that we're then going to ignore in the next row, because it's going to work out, trust me. And then in the middle of the V stitches, put a granny shell, which is 3 double crochet. Okay, so see how we did that? It's just so it's not pulling right here. You just got 1 extra double crochet there, and then skip over to the inside of the V stitch. And you don't have to do this. You could put the granny shells in between the V stitches, but I like the way it looks with the granny shell coming out of the center of the V stitch, because it looks either like a diamond ring, you see that, or a flower, and it really, really emphasizes the look of the zigzag when you do it this way. So in the center where the chain 1 space is of the V stitch, just put 3 double crochet in every stitch around. When you come to the corner, we're going to put that extra double crochet before we hit the corner, okay? It's right here in the very first part of that corner. You see? So you need a double crochet here and a double crochet here when we round the corner. And then do our corner like normal. 3 double crochet. Chain 2. 3 double crochet. Put a double crochet in this first block, and then go back to the granny blocks, or the granny shells in the center of the V stitches. That's what that should look like. Now if you do the V stitch, so if you do this one color and the V stitch in a contrasting color, and then you come back to another different color, so the contrasting color would be different than the row before and the row after, you get a really cool zigzag effect to it, and it's cool. I like it. It adds a little something to the project, you know, it makes it fancy. Alright, we made it all the way around. I did a jump cut. Now, let's say you want to change up, you still want to do the granny blocks, But instead of the granny blocks being like staggered, you want to line them up, because that's another option we have. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to once again slip over to the corner, because I like starting the row out of the corner. All right, we're going to do a normal old 3 double crochet. The corners stay the same throughout this entire blanket. It just makes everything easier. 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet. All right. Now, whoop. Last time I told you we're gonna kind of ignore that post stitch there. So what we're gonna do is we need to line up the blocks so they line up with each other without adding too many stitches. Okay, so we're going to skip 2 and in the 3rd, and I know that that doesn't make sense, but trust me, it will work. We are going to put 3 double crochets in that stitch. Okay, now we're going to skip the post, skip over that one, and in the center of this block, that middle, so there's a double crochet here, double crochet here, double crochet here. In this middle one, that's where we're going to put the granny stitch, or the granny shell. So 3 double crochet in that center one. Okay, and this will just line the blocks up, so instead of being staggered, they're on top of each other. See? Boop, boop. And all the way around, just in the center of those double crochets, just put the 3 double crochets in the center of the 3. Like that. There's 1 double crochet, there's 2, there's 3, and in the 3rd we put the 3 double crochets. And it will line everything up so that your shells are all lined up and not staggered. There's 100 million ways that you can just make tiny little changes to create your own granny square or your own granny square blanket. And you can make the granny squares as big or as little as you want. Alright, now we got to the corner, right? We have to repeat here what we did over here. So we are going to skip over 1, 2, and in the 3rd, which is the same if you're coming from the corner going this way, skip 1, 2, and in the 3rd, we're going to put our granny shell there, which is 3 double crochet. And then in the corner, put our normal 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet. 2, 3. Now remember what we did here? Because we just did it right here. We're going to skip 2, and in the 3rd, put a granny shell. Oops. Wow. I got all tangled up on myself. And then skip this one and that one, and then in the middle of this this granny shell, put another granny shell. Just repeat this all the way around. Just keep on doing it in the center, and do all of your corners exactly the same. And that is what that row will look like. See how it kind of lines up this way? It just changes the aesthetic slightly. Just slightly. And the more rows you do in a row of this stitch, the more prominent it will look. It'll be more obvious that you did that. And like I said, you can change colors as frequently or infrequently as you want. You can change the stitches as frequently or as infrequently as you want. Just make it your own. Play with it. Don't be afraid to try something new. If it doesn't work out, you only lost a row, right? There's worse things than having to frog back a row. Frogging back 20 rows, now that would be a disaster. I've been there, done that. And I wanted to cry the whole time I was doing it. And it looks like we're playing yarn chicken with this purple. See if we can make it. That's the one main downfall of using scraps, is constantly playing yarn chicken and seeing if you can get that ball to make it all the way around the edge. I'm gonna say, well, I have about a 50-50 chance right now whether it's gonna make it or not. The ball's getting smaller and smaller. I'll go ahead and wager a guess right now. Do you think we're gonna make it or no? Because we still have all this to go. I think we have a shot. And then obviously we're going to switch over to the gray next because that's what we have. Still have some of the blue left, but I feel like the blue kind of swallowed everything up. Another fun game you can do is put all of your... Try to make sure that the yarn is all the same weight. So these are all 4-weight yarns. Throw all your scraps into a basket and just randomly grab a color. And don't think about it, just whatever color you pick comes up next in the, we'll call it crochet roulette. Although it obviously makes more sense to use the smaller balls on the beginning of in the center, because they can go further than if you're doing a small ball on the outer bigger rings. And you're going to run out faster and you have a bunch of jagged lines. Well, I think we're going to make it. I think we're going to make it. Hey, look, Mom made it. I'm singing it preemptively. I haven't made nothing yet. I ain't made nothing yet. My brain sung I ain't made nothing yet to the sound of that song. Ain't seen nothing yet. How wonderful how my brain works. I was singing a song in the kitchen and it was random. It was a random song. I don't even remember what I was singing about, to the melody of an actual popular song. And Juju's laughing at me. She's like, I don't know how you do that. It's like, it's skill, baby. It's skill. Alright, now we got... This is the extra post, so we're going to go one over from that and put our last granny shell. Remember, we got to make sure that we have the same amount of shells on all sides, and we barely made it. We got a little tiny ball left over, which is going to have to go in my even smaller scrap bin because that ain't going to... Well, I might be able to make a center out of that. All right. And because the gray is a cake, I don't have to put the gray in anything. I slide it on my doohickey thing. My yarn holder, if you will. Boop. Problem solved. Alright. Alright, what? I think we're going to do baubles next. Once again, I'm going to make a slip stitch. Join it. I feel like we should have put like a solid line somewhere here or changed the color because it's looking very like all one, like uniform, and I don't like that. Because I can't even see that there's a zigzag stitch here. I can barely see that there's a solid right there. So it's always good when you're going to switch stitches to change color so that that stitch that you used like stands out. Now if you're using a self-striping yarn or like a variegated yarn of some sort, you obviously don't have to change color so much. So I'm starting in the corner once again. Chain 3. 2 more double crochet. Because we're just going to leave our corners as is. 3 double crochet in the corner. 3 double crochet in the corner. Alright. Now, to do a bobble stitch, we're going to once again work in between because that just makes our life easier. We don't have to do as much math. And there's 100 ways you could make a bobble or a popcorn stitch or any of those things. So if you have a preference for a bobble or a popcorn stitch or a bean stitch, use that stitch in place of what I'm doing right here. As long as if you can figure out that it's a multiple of 2, because most of them are a multiple of 2, and then do a third for a chain, it works out. All right, I think I'm going to do the bean stitch. So I'm going to yarn over, go in between, so that's the corner, and that's the next one. Go in between, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull up a loop, chain through all of them, chain 1 to close it, and then chain another one because we need a multiple of 3. Go to the next stitch, wrap our yarn, go in, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull up a loop, pull off all of them, chain 1 to close it, and then chain another one to get over to the next stitch. So you should have a multiple of 1, 2, 3. Okay, yarn over, and if you find that it's pulling too much, do 2 chains in between there. If you feel like it's pulling too much, you put another chain in there. It's not going to matter in the grand scheme of things because it's just a chain. What did I do? What did I do? I'm center pulling. I put the thing on my spinny thing and then I grabbed the center pull string like a doofus. Alright, let's start that stitch over again. Whoop. Alright. Wrap our yarn. Go in the chain space. Pull up a loop. Wrap it. Pull up and pull up. Like you don't want that real tight. Okay, pull it up and away. Wrap it. Pull up a loop again. Grab, pull through all of them. Chain 1, chain 2. Okay, just keep doing that. 2, and then 3 times, and then pull through all of them. Chain 1, chain 2. All right. So we're just gonna keep doing that all the way around, and this adds like an extra special. You could also, like, if you don't want to do the popcorn or the bobbles, the little bean stitches, another stitch you could do. All right, is trying to remember how to do the popcorn stitch that I did recently. How do we do the, okay, double crochet, right? And then you just put 1 double crochet in there, right? And then you wrap like you're going to do another double crochet and take off 2. Wrap like you're going to do another double crochet, take off 2. Wrap like you're going to do another double crochet, take off 2. And then 1 more. Wrap like you're doing a double crochet, take off 2. You should have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 on here. Pull through all of them. That will create a bobble stitch. Chain 2. Go to the next one, put a double crochet. Okay. Wrap, go in, pull up a loop, pull off 2. Wrap, go under, pull up a loop, pull off 2. Wrap, pull up, pull off 2, then 1 more time. You should have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Pull through all of them. Chain 2. There's another little bobble stitch, but that's going to be the front of your blanket because that's going to be the popcorn stitch. And do that all the way around, and then you can put your little increase in the corner of just when you hit that corner, 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet. Now, I'm going to finish off this side of the bobble, and then we're going to go back to the other side, and we're going to confuse all of us. It'll be fine. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Pull off all, chain 2, go to the next space, double crochet, oops, 2, 3, 4, pull off 5, chain 2, double crochet, 2, pull off 2, pull off 2, pull off 2, chain through all 5, chain 2, double crochet, pull off 2, pull off 2, pull off 2, one more, pull off 2, chain 2, double crochet, chain 2, and we're in the corner, 3 double crochet, chain 2, double crochet, alright, so this is the back side of the stitch. It's the front side of the stitch. It looks like a little popcorn. Boop, 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 boop. And then as you come back around and you crochet and pull on these will bunch up more. But yeah. And you can change it up as many times as you want. And if you want to just come around here and then go back to the stacked double crochets, you could do that. Like, you can just change up as many times as you want. It really doesn't matter. You could also, if you wanted, if you wanted to do a row, let's frog that back. If you want to do a row where you just have, maybe you have a little tiny bit of yarn left over, and you just want to do a row where you just do a thin row. So it's not, you just want a thin little line all the way around. You can do this same stitch in single crochets or half doubles. So we attached in the corner. You can do 3 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, chain 2, 3 single crochets. And then just go around and in every stitch put a single crochet like we did with the double crochet solid row. And that will also give you a cute little divider between the different stitches if you want to do that. Or if you have just a little bit of yarn you wanted to put in there real quick to use up, you could do a single crochet row too. Just make sure that all 4 of your sides, no matter what stitch you're doing, make sure all 4 of your sides have the same amount of stitches. Okay, so we did the single crochet row. Alright, well now we want to come back and do the granny shell. Once again, start in your corner. Do your normal increase in the corner. Skip 2, and in the third, put a granny shell. Or skip 2 and in the third put a V-stitch. Skip 2, granny. It's just a fun way to just keep your brain going. To keep add a little bits of color. See, look how pretty that is. With that little gray pop in there, it just divides the colors a little bit. It's a good way to use up scraps. It's a good way to get creative and not just get stuck with the same old boring, let's work a granny square in the round until eternity. I mean, it's fun. And I hope you have learned something from this video. I hope you have been inspired to do something fun in this video. If you make a granny square like this, or you decide to design your own granny square, I mean, I really would like to see it. I'm going to pull this apart because I'm going to put this in a project bag and work on it after I finish my Halloween blanket. But it's a fun little way to just add something different to your basic boring granny. And if I had changed the colors here, you would see that solid line a lot better. And the V-stitch, if you do a different color here and a different color here, that V-stitch will stand out a lot more. Like with my Halloween blanket. So there's the V-stitch. See how that's just a V-stitch, and that's just, see how I did white on the bottom and white on the top, or purple on the, like, because this is variegated and this is a solid white. And this is 3 rows of just the V-stitch in itself, and then I have a solid row here, a solid row here. See how the solid row really stands out between the 2 different colors? You just gotta get creative with your colors and think about what you're doing. And so here, once again, we have the whole center is just basic granny shell. And then I have the solid. I have granny shell here, and a solid here, and then granny shell here. And it gives it like a thick, like it breaks it up, you know? Even if you do like this, where it's all the same color, and you have a different color here and there, it breaks it up a lot. And it makes the blanket more visually appealing. If you do anything like this, you make your own granny square blanket and you design, I would love to see it. I would love to see what you do, what you incorporated, how you zhuzhed it up from my tutorial. Please share it in the Facebook group or on Instagram, or you could email me. Any of those will work. And thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye, guys.